When I was about 14, my grandparents had come all the way from California to come visit me in my home in Australia. We had planned this massive trip to Queensland in order to see the Great Barrier Reef. As the trip went on, my mind began to fill with questions, like what would be hiding in the coral, and would I see a shark? As we boarded the boat, it became very apparent that the people running our trip were invested in the coral reef. When we arrived at the site, all geared up, I jumped in and looked around, and what did I see? Gray, dead, and empty coral. There was nothing around. They had mentioned that it was dying and many unfortunate facts about this, but I didn't think much of it. It made me upset that something that was meant to be one of the world's wonders was becoming extinct. And today, I'm going to talk to you about what is causing the death of coral, what is working, and what my solution is. Contributors to the Great Barrier Reef's decay include bleaching, global warming, and ship pollution. Bleaching begins with the eviction of zooxanthellae, which gives the coral the vibrant color. But when the temperatures of the water become too high, the algae can't return to the coral, causing it to lose its color and die. When the coral and animals die from coral bleaching, it can cut humans off from our food source and poison the animals we catch and eat, causing people to get sick and possibly die. Without coral, we'll have to focus on man-made seawalls, which are more costly, less efficient, and harmful to the atmosphere to construct. An example of this was in May of 2018. The Climate Council of Australia had reported that 93% of individual reefs in the Great Barrier Reefs have suffered some degree of coral bleaching. Then in 2016, bleaching of the coral of the Great Barrier Reef killed 29 to 50% of the reef's coral. And then in 1998 to 2002, mass bleaching in the Great Barrier Reef was around 50% of the coral was affected. Ship pollution has been smothering coral reefs. When trash wraps around the coral, it prevents further growth of the coral and then slowly kills it. Damage can be caused by oil spills and coal spills. In the Great Barrier Reef, animals become affected by oil spills because they'll die from the oil consumption. Not only is this a danger to the animals, but humans as well, because when we lose coral and we become more susceptible to the damage of natural disasters like floods and hurricanes. Pollution can cut us off from oxygen because 70% of the oxygen that we breathe today has been created by marine plants. Not only this, but we poison our water source and our food, causing health problems like damage to the nervous system, hormone problems, reproductive problems, and kidney damage. So what has worked so far? The Australian government has designated ship areas in and around the Great Barrier Reef to limit the amount of ships passing through it. Also, restricted areas were created to disallow boats. Just one cruise ship can make about 8 tons of waste every week. The yearly rate of garbage was reported to be 1.4 billion pounds. The solution that I propose is to radically reduce the number of boats in the Great Barrier Reef, which will bring down the 7,000 yearly ships to cross the reef to a much lower number, reducing the number of interactions to protect the reef. We can do this by the Australian government helping fund the Great Barrier Reef and improve their laws and regulations on where the ships can travel, and giving greater flexibility for solar panel vessels because their vessels emit less harmful gases into our atmosphere. Solar panel vessels may be the answer to preventing bad gases from entering the air and polluting it, as well as oil spills from attacking and destroying ocean animals and coral. Not only will this protect the coral, but they are also cheaper in the long run because there is no fuel cost. How it works is the boat uses the sun's energy and converts it into electricity. They are easy to maintain, charge when not in use, very reliable, and much quieter. When I think back to my experience, I think about how things should have turned out differently. I still remain hopeful. I should have boarded that ship, not heard about how we were dealing with killing such a huge and beautiful wonder. I should have put on my gear, plunged into the sea, and been engulfed by a vibrant coral and abundant marine life. I should have been surrounded by my family and had an experience that I could never forget. A story that I could relive when I told it, and a place that I would want to keep returning to. I want future generations to experience what I missed, and to make a positive impact in the world that allows humans and marine lives to thrive and survive.